All right, welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. And obviously, you can tell I am not in the same position I typically am. If you're watching, if you're listening, I'm actually sitting in Emma's spot. And it's actually funny because I'm looking at myself as I'm recording, and I actually didn't think I'd like this setup as much as I do. I it's so funny. Like it's this whole episode of this podcast, to be honest, is literally gonna be like I'm thinking of having an identity crisis. I have no sweet fucking clue what I'm doing with my life these days. Is how I feel, and it's so funny because what started me on this topic was a few weeks ago when I was on the phone with Amanda. Like I keep calling you Amanda because in a positive way, when it was just like there's like it's in a funny way, kind way. It's nice to hear me suffering when I'm helping so many other people, and it's not that is a negative thing about me going on about my life and everything that's negatively, where I'm struggling at, and me just announcing to everyone I'm working with, like where I'm struggling because I'm trying to quote unquote lead by example, but it allowed me to look at myself through a lens of being, maybe a little bit more honest as to how I was feeling with my day to day life. And, because even with this podcast, with me sitting here in this new position, and, this podcast originally is what got me being the most vulnerable, honest version of myself with what I was going through. And I think it's funny because everything always comes full circle, and anyone that I'm working with knows what I mean by that. It's like, at the beginning, you try to build your systems, your habits to build your best lifestyle that you've ever had, fitness wise, emotional wise, career wise, everything. And, eventually you're going to start repeating the same patterns and going through cycles of leveling up. And it's like, the foundation of leveling up is the same. It just comes with consistency and learning how to adapt and grow. And, I think, I'm in a repetitive cycle. What got me originally here was journaling, which you can see right here. I got my journal, I got my books, I got my actually two new journal that I got by a company I'm working with, and a lot of my clients are using it. Shout you guys out! It's fucking absolutely insane. Emma's doing this journal routine. I think it's really eye opening because again, I'm going through an identity fucking crisis, and what I mean again. What I mean by that is like going back to the roots of what got me into this position of my life right now was again journaling, understanding my internal dialogue, self-expressing myself, reading books to challenge my perspective, to give me more perspective, more of an understanding as to where I wanted to put my energy, my time, and my commitments. And as I once like I don't really even really know how to articulate where I'm at struggling right now because I'm just trying to get to the point of just letting you guys know like I never anticipated on getting here. Like when I had so much motivation to do things each day was to get to a goal of having my own business, being financially free. And only thing I mean by financially free is not having to work for anybody else. I'm not making millions of fucking dollars by any means. I'm still just an average person working his own 9 to 5 within my own schedule, just trying to make my shit grow and let's like financially give myself my own life. And a lot of these goals of giving me and Emma a different perspective, moving to the house that we're in now, all these things like I guess like I didn't anticipate for these to come real or come to fruition. I never anticipated to get it. Like that is saying I say is your dog chasing your tail. You never expected to catch it, never expected to get it. And when I go back to the conversation of what I'm struggling with in my life, like I just never realized that I just never anticipated on accomplishing my goals. So it's like a kind of a 10-part series of me understanding who I am again within what I've created. And the reason why I always use that analogy of everything coming back in full circle is, me doing this podcast episode, there's no fucking script. There's nothing. And that's kind of how I got into this space was just here's my topic, here's my idea, here's my energy, here's kind of where I want to go with it. And then I tightened it up because I wanted to be more articulate, more just on the ball with what I'm saying, so I'm not like all over the place and stuff, because at the end of the day, I like to talk, especially when it comes to passionate conversations like this, and I can lead by example. But it just comes back to like, I got into this space just being truly authentic with myself and with everyone around me. I didn't expect my life to get to where it's at, where I have a full community with my own personal community, which is 40 to 50 people that I have talking to every single day. Then I have a community that I work with that's 1,500 other people, work with a bunch of other head coaches. And, I never expected this to become my life. I'm sitting here as like, quote unquote, part of my job is recording this episode and uploading a video and stuff. And, it's like, why am I even fucking struggling? That's the crazy part, right? So then you go down these other rabbit holes of why you're struggling and all these different things. And, it just comes back to like when I was asked that question, we're not asked that question, but talking to Amanda on the phone and her being like, it's kind of nice that she resonated with. I could resonate with her some of the daily day struggles that we're going through. I might be up here in comparison to some of you guys of where you would like to take your fitness goals, your career goals, your emotional goals, but I'm still doing the same framework for each level and each stage, which is why I said everything kind of comes back full circle. And once I opened up that kind of that door of like, shit, where else am I struggling, to be more honest with myself, because that's initially how I got here to grow this far, was by being this honest, to understand what I needed to do each day. There's a big gap in terms of me just fucking appreciating where I am. And it's crazy because it's like, we have so many patterns that are held up into our life that has been conditioned from the way we've been taught in school, from our parents, our influences from our friends, all of these different things. And, at what part of adulthood does anyone sit back and say, like, yo, like, check your patterns as to how you regulate your emotions from being happy, being sad, dealing with grievances, dealing with trauma, dealing with just being excited for fucking life. There's a huge part that I feel, this is a side tangent a little bit, that you grow as an adult and they're like, don't be as excited like you're fucking like a child believing in Santa Claus again. I know it's completely left field, but it's just that pure excitement, that joy. Like Halloween just passed. You see all these kids, like some of these kids are fucking jazzed up with their costumes, going 10 out of 10 into them, right? And you're like, where's that kind of energy we foster each day? And as adults, we don't really do that, right? And it goes back to the patterns that we're just so used to living in, that just kind of like are meant to keep us in this box. And when I started to ask myself, honestly, like, where am I struggling more, to kind of give more examples onto a day-to-day basis to the people I'm working with, and my clients and my community, as to relate to them, to show them, like, we're all doing this together, which I really love doing that side of things. It really went to show, to understand myself, that, I've been struggling for probably about the last past year. When I think a big struggle of mine has been like self acceptance. That's why I'm joking about having a self identity crisis, because, a big thing for me was creating this life and really, 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 really making it validating me in this space. And we're not even just in this space. What I mean by in this space is in my life. Like being able to prove to myself that I was capable of doing these things and getting myself out of a career and into this position in my life and pain free in the gym and all these things. Like, came from with a lot of energy, like toward that was hatred, towards a hate, towards like a disbelief almost, because it was like, fuck you, world, let me show you. And it's like, that energy carried into the piece that I've created. And it's like, I'm running, that's what I mean about those patterns and going through identity crisis, because, a lot of our identities are attached to these old patterns, because, sometimes we grow up fucking horrible. We grow up with shit that's, puts us in boxes, and it sucks. Some of us have lived lives, so many more lives than some of other people, and it's not to compare by any means, but it's just for you as the listener or the viewer to understand where you're at amongst your fucking story. And I feel like, me being 30, not that age has anything to do with it, but it just really does put that extra pep in your step in terms of being aware of where my patterns are not serving me. Because relating that back to you guys watching, listening, so many of you guys have changed your life so fucking much, and none of you guys have really sat back and looked at it from a standpoint of, okay, what have I changed? And a lot of it's intangible stuff, right? A lot of us can look at, oh, did we get raises at work? Are we more educated? Are we physically more fit? Are we smarter, faster, stronger? All this bullshit. But it's like, where does it come? Where does it come from a self-worth standpoint? Where does it come from a self-care standpoint? I have no fucking self-care at all. It's actually atrocious. Atrocious. Blah, blah, blah. It's actually trash. It's fucking insane. And, it goes back to all these other different things of our patterns that we never had access to, because some of us have lived lives where we had to put ourselves in these boxes. And, for me, going back to the identity crisis, I'm just realizing, like, holy shit, like, I created the life I wrote down on paper I wanted to fucking have. And that saying, almost to wrap up the fucking episode, that saying of, you have accomplished goals that you once said to yourself that was going to make you happy, and you're sitting here not happy. So that opening of the door of, where else am I struggling in my life, has opened up a landslide of where I've been digging my hole in my own head from just throwing everything at the wall, because I feel this energy that just isn't serving me. I'm not going to shy away. The family trauma, the family dynamic, and everything that's going through it is rough as fuck. It plays a huge, huge, huge role on, like, my negativity that I feel each day, because it's the framework as to how I grew up. A lot of you guys can relate to that. You want to have that acceptance of these situations, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. But it's just, you have this energy you're carrying, and as you translate your world into the one that you fucking rightfully deserve, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and the whole nine yards, you have to review those layers of those patterns and perspectives, that what are you bringing with you that doesn't serve this layer. And I realized I accomplished almost every single one of my fucking goals. To be fully transparent, the only thing I really left is to, like, other than being like an adult and figuring out like all of the extra, like, administration side of things of being in this space, it's literally public speaking and getting into public gigs where I'm doing more of like what I'm doing like this, but in a live setting. And I feel like that's far fetched? Like, no, not at all. I definitely get that, but it's definitely within 3 to 5 years. I don't think it's going to happen within the next 6 to 8, 9 months. And the reason why I say it that way is because, again, like, I accomplished so many things that I said were going to make me happy, and I didn't realize that. And a lot of you guys have done that too. So that door of opening that conversation with Amanda, being like, "Hey, where else am I struggling to resonate?" has shown me all of these layers of the journey that I've been through, that I can look back, cross them off. I have been more successful in these areas, and I deserve more confidence. But then it comes in, like I said, that acceptance part of trying to figure out the other layers of where you need to enjoy the process and actually give yourself that uplift that you deserve. And a lot of us haven't did that because they come with negative patterns, and that's where the fuck I'm at, realizing how fucking goddamn negative I am all the goddamn time for no fucking reason. But it's because, like I said, I created all this life from this fuck you type of energy, from like fuck you family, fuck you life, fuck you everybody, even myself, which I learned is a whole other conversation. But, I just feel like, again, going back to why I'm in this space is being honest, being vulnerable, and just sharing where I'm at in my life. And, being honest with this entirety of my life where I'm at right now, I think is super, super valuable, because I'm at the peak of my life, accomplishing almost every single goal that I never fucking thought was ever going to come to fruition. Sitting here on paper, supposed to be the happiest, healthiest, best version of myself. And I still have all of these understandings that don't make sense to me, or these things that I don't understand, sorry, that don't make sense to me. And it's just a pattern. And I'm reading about it, I'm journaling about it, and going back to the framework which got me here. And, all of that to say that, it's about taking pride of your growth and being honest as to where you need to be changing some patterns, because we all deserve it. Other than that, I will keep on fucking rambling, because, as I said, it's like me going through this as I'm talking to you guys and all these different things. But many of you guys have accomplished goals that you literally said were going to make you happy, and we're still sitting here unhappy. So do yourself some service, some self-care, some self-grace. Take a step back, realize that you accomplished these goals, pat yourself on the fucking back, and know that you deserve everything. Let's fucking go. But you bet me in that corner.